5:34. I want to note that the Personnel Finance Committee meeting is meeting Jackson Street. This is January the 16th. And we're here to address the resolution 31501-2024 and a capital improvement. I have questions about the resolution itself. The capital improvements that we have for UWO boiler system and the rooftop are out of place. Okay.
So should I bring it to the floor?
You may, yeah, you can do it.
I move for approval of the capital improvement budgets for 2024 to be funded with transfers from the undesignated general fund balance, which will either reduce the unassigned general fund balance or will later be reimbursed by a subsequent bond issue.
We're going to discuss this thing. And somebody, you want a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
You got a second? I don't remember. In evaluating this, unless we make the changes, it shouldn't go to the floor, quite frankly. So all of the changes that we look at from 2025 in the CIP to replacing a fire station and replacing a large fire truck. What is it, RHFL? Am I right on that? Is it the RH?
Put in the ARF truck.
ARF truck, okay. There were different numbers at an earlier time. We were dealing with 400,000, now we're dealing with 450,000 for the airport fire station. At one point in time, I think somebody said that it was gonna cost 5.5 million when all is said and done.
I have a question.
Yes.
So since it was just updated, was there anything new added to what was going to be done? Or added to it? The $50,000, is there anything new that's going to be plugged in at the last minute?
Yeah.
Well, nothing's been added since the presentations at the county board meeting. The 450,000 is just for the design and engineering of the fire station. So it's up from 400, presumably because just a better cost estimate. You know, we plan these out 5 years ahead of time, and to use a 5-year-old number wouldn't be appropriate. So we looked a lot more closely at the numbers when we get to the year it's going to be done. So that's our estimate of the cost, and Director Shell can of course speak to that if you know the basis for his estimate.
What is included?
Well, what would be included would be the architectural, design, the mechanicals, plumbing, and everything. And what we would do is come up with what would be bidding documents throughout the bid in 2026, I think is when the building would be, 2025.
Yeah.
Would be going out for bid, but we would have a design to be able to show you with a better opinion of probable cost.
What is 2026? I'm sorry.
Anticipated funding request for construction dollars is right now in 2026. So we anticipate.
Has anybody gone to talk with Oshkosh, the city of Oshkosh, since it's their land, their building?
The building is actually ours. We own the fire station today, and the county owns the fire station. We own the land that it sits on. It's at the airport, and we have had preliminary conversations with the city. And we have discussed a number of things with their existing operating agreement. And if we are to move forward with design and engineering of a fire station, we'll continue to have more in-depth conversations with them about that joint use agreement. We've floated different concepts out there to them as far as the sharing of costs of the operation of the station. Ultimately, we may come to the board in 2026 with a hybrid model for funding, be it grant funding that we can obtain or, contribution from the city of Oshkosh, I think is not out of the realm of possibility. We just don't, we haven't been far enough down that, road for discussion on construction dollars yet. So we're requesting the design funding, from the county at this time.
I would just say, I'll support the design funding, but when the actual building of that fire station would, unless the city's willing to contribute some money to it, I wouldn't support it. I mean, when we built that originally, we were required to have that, we had commercial air, we are not required to have a fire station anymore. So it's like we're doing that just for safety precautions, but we don't not have to have a fire station there. So if the city isn't willing to pay for some of that, they're using it 90% of the time. And I think you're stretching it at the 10%, but I'll give you the 10%, you know what I mean? So it's like, if they're not willing to pay for half of that fire station for the little bit that we use it, I would not support actually building it at that time and then paying the water fees on top of that for the stormwater runoff. So it's like, when we were required to have that, I understand that it was our responsibility, we needed to own that, and it was nice of the city to partner with us. That is no longer the case, but we need to get the design basically drawn up so we know what type of building we're gonna, and that gives you 2 years to work with the city and find some grant money. But if I'm still on this board in 2 years and they're not willing to pony up any money, I don't think I could basically pay the money to build that now without some contribution from the city.
Anybody else?
I just want to say, we have started negotiations with the city about that. There have been a couple of conversations with the city, with the fire chief, and we have made it pretty clear that there's going to be a different approach. At least that's our intention moving ahead. Don't want to get into details, frankly, because you don't want to negotiate in an open session.
No.
So the administration is absolutely going to renegotiate that agreement. Exactly what it looks like, I don't know, and probably wouldn't tell you open session if I could, because, it has to be agreed to by both sides, and we're working on that. But like you said, when it comes back for funding for the construction, very legitimate question that I'm sure will be asked, and I think there'll be an answer then.
We had a question on the dollar amount that you're using for the fire truck. And then 2025 on the old CIP plan, we got it in there as 850. Somebody said that they could buy a used truck for 700. We're now up to 14, we're up to 1.4 million. That bothers me, and I guess there's gotta be a better answer. The PFAS that you have in the crash truck that's out there now can be taken out and cleaned up, and the piping can be blown out and reused. That isn't something, somebody said $50,000. I don't know about that either. But it would seem to me that there is an answer for the one that you have in the shed that's not been used but once since 1986.
Well, I think there's a number of things that, if I may.
Yes.
Yes. There's a number of things at play. It's a 1986 fire truck. It's 37 years old now. It is very, very difficult, if not impossible, to get parts for that truck. Oshkosh Corporation no longer supports that vehicle as far as replacement parts go. So we have to be very crafty on how we continue to maintain it to keep it in service. The PFAS issue is certainly one of the biggest ones on our radar. The FAA had mandated for many, many years air truck firefighting foam that contains the chemical PFAS. And that chemical essentially bonds to everything that it touches. It's kind of why it's really good at putting out fuel fires. But that being said, the 1986 truck is 37 years old. That's the primary reason for looking to get it replaced at this time. It also does have that old foam system on it and all that. But I think that with this truck is kind of secondary to the actual truck itself that we're looking to replace. Now going on and looking at used vehicles, as Supervisor Bender mentioned in the special orders meeting, you can find some great used vehicles on the market for in that price range that was talked about, which is more along the lines of what we had in the capital improvement plan before. However, the remediation PFAS that those trucks are all going to have that have have been in the system for years of use at other airports, wherever we would find a used one from, would have to be dealt with. Quite honestly, there isn't, we haven't found a 100% viable solution for remediating. Let's say that we have a 2009 fire truck, Striker. We're looking at retrofitting that at some point in the future, once we want to transition away from the PFAS foam. But we have not found 100% solution to flush the truck, for instance, and get all of the AFFF or the PFAS containing foam out and be guaranteed that we're not still discharging that chemical into the environment. And I think those environmental regulations are gonna continue to get stricter and stricter as that phase out continues to happen. So you can replace the entire foam tank system, but we don't 100% know what that cost is yet. There's some other airports in the state that have been getting with like Oshkosh Corporation as one manufacturer of what it would take to replace the tanks, the piping, and all of the components that foam ever touched. And so we're trying to figure out what that cost would look like if we were able to pursue used trucks. I think there will be a lot of used trucks on the market now that the FAA last fall finally approved an alternative. And I know Vice Chair Farr had asked if there are other manufacturers out there. There certainly are than just Oshkosh Corporation. We're working to get a secondary quote on that, but ultimately the $1.4 million does come from a quote from Oshkosh Corporation of 2024 Striker. It's their model 1,500 gallon fire truck Striker pricing. So we're confident that we could acquire a truck for that amount or less, but at this point in time, the request going forward was encouraged to be for the cost of a new truck, and that's what you have before.
We have some other issues. Line 50 and line 52. having to do with the UWO boiler system. UWO top of the roof replacement or the replacement of the air handling. Which is which?
I can speak to that. It's a mistake. Line 52 is wrong. So line 52 repeated the title of the project from line 50, which was the boiler system replacement 1800 wing. So we'd like to have someone make a motion to amend to delete the on line 52 boiler system replacement 1800 wing should be deleted. And then the language should be added rooftop AHU replacement for art music wing.
I would like to make an amendment that line 52 be struck out. Rooftop, let's see.
She strike out the part I wrote in there. That's not very clear, but it's the same as the.
Okay,
of
the Fox,
boiler.
the boiler system replacement 1800 wing and be replaced with boiler system. No, oh, rooftop AHU replacement for art and music wing. Did you see it? Miss Julie, did you see it? AHU.
Rooftop AHU replacement for art / music wing.
I see air handling, yeah.
Right.
He's got it written down there, Julie, if you need to see it.
AHU for music wing, right? Yeah. Okay. And still the 1800.
Was it a second?
That's a-
The seconded, Bender seconded it.
Yeah. Okay.
Now we've made a couple of passes at this and it doesn't look to me as though it's ready to go out on the floor. Quite frankly, and I would like to pull this.
We have a motion to
Okay.
vote for it right now, so.
Second, I would like to pull this and have it brought back to committee to take a look at it at a later time. We can take it through P&F or we can take it back to each one of the directors and putting these together so that they makes sense, everything makes sense, and we have correct numbers.
What's still up in the air? Everything, to me, everything's clear,
Is it?
yeah.
Yeah.
But just, let me, what are the concerns yet? That hasn't been addressed?
Well, I'd like to know, are we dealing with totals or are we dealing with totals plus in some cases down here in, County Road II and CB. But that's outside funding. We have county funding and we have outside funding. What are the totals?
Well, each one that has outside funding, this lists the 2024 funding plus the outside funding for total 2024 funding. So for instance, on line 42, because the total funding, 1,699,259. That's what you get when you have the county funding, 1.2 million to the outside funding of 400 some thousand. What's not included in here, because this just deals with 2024 funding, is if there's further funding expected in the future, such as for the airport fire station, that will have to come back for the 2026 resolution with additional funding. So it doesn't have the projected totals on here, but it includes the total for 2024, both county and the outside funding broken out.
I personally just to move forward, I mean, I wanna get this stuff out for bids and, you know, nothing's gonna come in at what we're projecting anyhow. So it's like, we're gonna get one more chance to either add more money to it or, you know, but the longer we drag our feet, prices keep going up. Last year, our stuff didn't get done. The UW didn't get the windows in. They didn't get the roof done. These projects should be completed in the year that we budget the money. So I would like to see the stuff done in 24. We're budgeting the money early. You're getting the money early. I'd like to see the stuff out for bids so that the projects are complete by the end of the year. And the longer we take to move that forward, doesn't happen. You know, like most of our projects that we approved last year, they're not done. And they should be. We shouldn't be carrying them over from year to year. So I'm all in favor of moving this forward, getting this stuff out for bids and accomplishing what we're out to do.
Question, if there's a motion on, if you wanna put a motion out, you're more than welcome to, and you can try to get a second and we can vote for it, but right as of right now, don't we have a motion on the floor to vote for this?
We haven't.
Amendment.
We're amending.
Oh, the amendment of that one, yeah, of the amendment that, yes.
Just a second.
So the county road II, CB plate nav, so in 2020, the county board approved 665,000. We're requesting an additional 135,000. For that, and then once the project's completed, we'll get reimbursed that 107,724. So the II, we're just requesting 135,000 additional.
Let's go down to County S and Wright Road and, State Highway 116.
Okay,
County funding 1.1. Outside 393,662 and a total of 1.5.
Correct.
Is that coming from state funds or is that coming from?
yes, like the local road improvement program. It's from the LRIP, so that's a reimbursement, that 393,662. After the project is completed.
Let's get those that are interested in running this through and putting it to the board.
First, we get a vote on the motion to amend.
Motion to amend, sorry.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
I'll make a motion to approve it with the amendment.
Approved.
Second,
I believe that motion was already.
oh,
made.
it is already
That
made,
started
you're
the
right,
discussion.
you're so right.
So we're gonna vote on the original amendment now with
We're voting on the resolution.
Resolution with the amendment included.
Correct.
Okay, so. let's
Aye.
Start over here. Dave,
Aye.
Aye.
Betsy.
I,
Don,
I,
Steve's and I, and I'm on.
I,
Oh,
So we were adjourning at, sorry, but I gotta get all the other equipment back into the other room
yeah.
at 5:50.
I like the move to adjourn.
second.
Aye.